Red Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 113 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So, I'm going to be 100% honest with y'all. I completely forgot that AEW in Your House was this Sunday until I freaking watched NXT. I thought it was on the 16th for some reason, but no, it is this Sunday. So yeah, be sure to check it out. And luckily, WWE reminded me. So I will be doing predictions for In Your House, NXT Takeover In Your House, which has always been one of my favorite pay-per-views, especially when they first started out. Of course, back in the day, there used to be only 4 pay-per-view events, and it was just Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and Survivor Series. And they decided back in the mid-90s to start doing a pay-per-view event between the big 4. And so they started off with In Your House. And I think I talked about this before. They gave away a house. They gave away a free house in Florida in a sweepstakes. And I entered it, and I wanted them to call me. Like, I know I was like, a teenager at the time, but I would have took the house, I would have took the house. But yeah, the person who won the house was actually a kid. They ended up selling it from an interview that someone did with him later on, not too long ago, that he actually sold the house afterwards. It sold for good money for back then, and yeah, I forgot what they did with the money, but they sold the house. So we got NXT Takeover In Your House coming this Sunday. There's an Impact event coming on Saturday too, but I haven't watched Impact in so long that I don't even know what the current storylines are. I know that, I know that AEW has a partnership with, Impact. And so I saw that Moose will be going against Kenny Omega and everything. So it sounds interesting. I mean, to be quite honest, I probably won't really check it out like that. Maybe I will. I might pop in and look at a few matches here and there. But I will be tuning into NXT this Sunday. So I hope everyone has been doing well. A lot of the country is reopening. Hopefully, if you are outside the U.S., that you are safe with everything that's going on with the pandemic. And here in Philly, we're pretty much reopened tomorrow, Friday. So if you're listening if you're listening live, it'll be tomorrow. If you're catching this episode, it'll be on June 11th, and you're not required to wear masks if you're fully vaccinated, so they're going off of an honor system. I'll be wearing my mask because I'm not trying to get political or anything, but if I were to have COVID, the last thing I want to do is pass it off to someone, regardless if they're going to be okay or not. I don't want to be the cause of someone either passing away or getting very sick. So that's all I'm going to say about that. This past weekend, my mom and my son, they had a joint birthday. She called it a luncheon, but it was kind of like a party because their birthdays are one day apart. And my son turned 12, and I gave him a phone. I gave my son a whole cell phone. It was like one of the biggest decisions I had to make. Mainly because, he's 12, he's going to middle school and all that stuff. And, in middle school, you kind of enter that weird age where you're figuring yourself out before you head off to the mysterious land of high school. So, yeah, I brought him a phone. He was very excited, very happy. Didn't expect it. Didn't expect it at all. But, you know, of course, had to lay down ground rules and everything. So I'm like, as a parent, figuring out, like, how to handle, you know, cell phone and internet. And, well, he's not on social media, so I don't have to worry about that. But, yeah. So all my parents out there, especially parents of older kids, like, oh my gosh, give me some damn advice, please. So, getting into some rumors and news, the biggest thing that recently came out, let me pull it up here, is the media call. The media call that Triple H had. I didn't get the full details of with Mickie James that apparently their NWA is doing a all women's event, if I'm not mistaken. And someone had asked Triple H how he felt about it, about doing an all women's pay-per-view event for WWE. And he said, I quote, haven't we already done them? It's a funny thing to me. So equality is equality. Equality is not, I want my own show. Equality is not, we have to have our own program. If I told you that I was making an all men's program and I didn't want women on it, it would be criticized. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I do think it's funny when people go, I want the best in the world regardless of contractual status. I'm sorry. From a business person's standpoint, then why do we have contractual status, right? It doesn't make sense to me. If you want to wrestle the best women in the world, come to the WWE. That's where they are. If you want to go elsewhere and say that they are, you can, but it is what it is. I'm all for it. I'm one of the biggest drivers of it. And will we do another all-women's event down the line? Possibly, but it's not a must-have in the moment. I think we do an amazing job of displaying our female athletes. Is it perfect? No. We'll always be in flux? Yes. But I think we do a pretty good job. And my opinion, the best female performers in the world are in WWE. And if they're not, they want to be. The way he put it is, I don't know. The way he put it, he said it wrong. So here's my take on all this. As far as with WWE, WWE does not need to do an all-women's pay-per-view event. I know there's a lot of people that, love what they did with Evolution, but let's be completely honest. Evolution was done because of the whole thing with with the Saudi show, with the women not being there. And so they decided to, please the stockholders, because that was not for the fans. They decided to please the stockholders who was worried about the stock prices and did the all-women's event. First of all, WWE does not need to do an all-women's pay-per-view event. They do not need to do an all-women's show or anything like that. If you want to talk about equality when it comes to WWE, the type of equality that I want is the quality of the storylines. Now, yes, on the men's side, there aren't that good storylines either, but when it comes to the way that the women are booked in WWE, it's like the all they do is the same storyline of the two friends. Either the two friends are bullying someone else, or the two friends are cool and then one don't like the other because they think they're better than them and all this stuff. It's just like the same old type of soap opera. Not even soap opera. It's high school type of storylines. And the type of quality that I want is to book them better. Can you imagine? So my biggest example of this is Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. Yes, they main evented WrestleMania Night 1. It was a great match. I would say even better than the first time the women main evented WrestleMania. But the way that they booked it, it was like, Sasha's like, I'm better than you and all this other stuff. And, Bianca with the girl and all this stuff. Can you imagine if they booked that feud as if they booked Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano? If they booked the feud similar to Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan? Can you imagine if they just booked the women similar to how if they put as much concentration into the storyline for the women as they do with Roman Reigns, as if they did with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Yes, we had Becky Lynch and everything like that, but Becky is gone. We have the Four Horsewomen. Look what are the Four Horsewomen doing now. Sasha's off doing, filming for The Mandalorian, of course. Charlotte Flair had left, and she came back. Bayley's just floating around, laughing somewhere. And Becky Lynch is home as a mom. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when she comes back. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. I love Becky Lynch. But she started to do pretty much the same thing over and over and over again. Now, when she started to go against Shayna Baszler, I was very excited for that. I was excited for that type of feud because I felt as though it was slightly different. It's, a powerhouse versus a powerhouse. But then, of course, they decided to just throw caution, do whatever, and had Shayna Baszler lose the title, and then they gave it to Asuka. Can you imagine if they booked Asuka the way that they do some of the men in WWE? If they book Asuka similar to Brock Lesnar, if they had, it's just, you want to talk about equality. I want quality. Okay, that's the type of equality that I want. I want quality. That's the type of equality that I want, is quality. I want the women to be booked good in WWE, okay? So, no, WWE does not need an all-women's event. Not even NXT needs an all-women's event. NXT has a really good women's roster. The thing is, it is slightly, it's suffering just a little bit from the way that it's been, definitely since the Four Horsewomen left, but especially since after the women with Asuka leaving and Shayna Baszler leaving. Who else? Rhea Ripley some as well. And now that Io Shirai is back, so we'll see how that goes. But I just want the women to be booked proper. Look how they're treating the women's tag team titles. It's basically a prop in a storyline. It's basically used as, oh, you don't like me, I don't like you, but, let's be frenemies and let's be tag team champions together. And that really pisses me off, because how am I supposed to, how are the women, female wrestling fans connect to something like that, The way that wrestling is today, the way that wrestling fans like wrestling today, is you want to be able to connect to something. You want to be able to connect to a storyline, connect to someone's background, things like that. It's not like, it can't be like the 90s where we have, over the top type of characters, the Hulk Hogans, the Ultimate Warriors, and everything like that. That's not going to work, because that's not how wrestling fans are today. Wrestling fans, especially with social media, everyone cares about the person behind the gimmick. You want to know, like, hey, like, for example, Bianca Belair, and talking about her mental health and what she had to do to overcome things and stuff like that. It makes her more human. It makes her more relatable and stuff like that. But coming back to my point, WWE does not need an all-women's pay-per-view event. WWE just needs to work on creating different type of storylines, good storylines for the women. That's why the Four Horsewomen did so well, because they were booked very differently than the divas, the butterfly belt and all the other stuff. But we need to keep it going. Like, they could have easily had booked Tamina and Natalya as like ultimate underdogs, so that, when we come to WrestleMania and you see the crowd cheering for Tamina, because they know, like, okay, outside of the character Tamina, we know that who she is as a person, and the fact that she has been working so hard without a title, and she gets that win at WrestleMania and everyone pops. And that's what I want. I just want quality. Just the way that Triple H kind of came about it, I don't agree with, but I agree with the point that WWE does not need an all-women's event right now. And as far as now, WWE has it's and the fact that he says, you know, the best female performers in the world are in WWE, and if they're not, they want to be. Yeah, there's a lot of money in WWE, but when you see, you know, when you see the way one person is booked in NXT versus the main roster, even versus outside of WWE, it's like night and day. Let's look at Asuka, for example. I'll go down the women. Asuka, Natalya, of course. Naomi, how many times people are going to say that they want Naomi to win the championship? Who else? Now the Bellas want to make a comeback. We got Eva Marie making a comeback as well. Like, come on. You guys want a weekly women's show in WWE so you can get the same damn storylines that you all complained about from Monday. And speaking about Monday, I didn't watch Raw like that. I watched maybe the first hour of Raw for a little bit, and then I was on Twitter the next day, and I see everyone talking about the worst Raw segment in history, as a lot of people were saying. And it was because of Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss and the doll Lily. So apparently somebody had talked to Vince McMahon about Annabelle, and that's when they came up with the idea with this doll and, you know, coming after Shayna Baszler. Now, I give props to Shayna Baszler. You know, she did what she had to do, and she tried her best to act as the, you know, the scared person in a horror film. Obviously, they wanted it to play that way. They had the music and the lights and stuff like that. Like, really think about this. You guys want an all-women's weekly show or all-women's pay-per-view event, but look what we got on Raw. No one asked for that segment. No one sat there and said, I want this to happen between Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss hasn't wrestled in so long, okay? Shayna Baszler was so dominant when she first came on the main roster. And then, of course, once Becky Lynch had gotten pregnant, that kind of went all down the drain. And now we have Shayna Baszler, you know, playing along in the tag team division. And now she's getting haunted by a doll and locking herself in a room behind the doll. And I'm not surprised by it. Truthfully, 100% honest, when I saw the clip on YouTube, I laughed. Because it's like, what do you expect? When was the last time Raw has been good? Like, Raw has its good parts and stuff like that, but when was the last time Raw has been good? Smackdown has been the true A show, I would say, since it started. Since back in the Ruthless Aggression era, definitely, when Paul Heyman was also working on it as well. So, and Raw is what it is, you know? You can either watch it or you don't watch it. I don't watch it all the way through anymore. I used to. But I don't watch it all the way through. To be 100% honest with you. I know that, you know, I have this podcast and I do recaps and stuff, but I'll either catch it on Hulu where I can, you know, take the highlights and, you know, skim through it or something like that, or I'll just read the recaps on one of the wrestling journalism sites. But really, I'm not surprised what happened. It's like the moment that you know, the moment where we had Alexa Bliss and Asuka was acting scared and she started dancing in front of Alexa Bliss at Alexa's playground. That's kind of when I kind of like threw my hands in. I'm like, you know, it's not going to get any better. To be completely honest, the difference between WWE and a lot of other promotions and a lot of other sports is that WWE is not gearing towards it, is not for its core base. It's not for wrestling fans. Their whole thing is that, you know, they are for the happiness of the stockholders and the board of directors. That's where its concentration is at. as long as they, it feels like sometimes they do cater to kids, even though it makes sense because their shows start when kids go to bed, so it doesn't make that much sense. And they actually did a kids show they used to have a kids show on Saturdays that really didn't do that well. But it just gets frustrating, when you see how good wrestling can be, and it had its moments. It just gets frustrating. I didn't mean to do that. And it has its moments, with Kofi Mania and Daniel Bryan and, as recently as, this past WrestleMania and Royal Rumble 2020. It has its moments, but, it is what it is, really. I mean, we're at the point now where we have a lot more freedom as far as what to watch with wrestling. We have AEW, we have NWA, we have Impact. You can even stick to Smackdown and NXT if you want. So WWE really can't get away with so much. I mean, there's been a lot of things that WWE did. I mean, we went through a whole PG era. The only difference between then and now is that you felt as though you had no other choice because all there was WWE. You really couldn't watch anything else like that. It was either, you stick with WWE or you find something else to do. But now we have WWE, we have AEW, we have NXT, we have NWA, we have Impact, Ring of Honor, a lot of other different promotions and things like that. So, I mean, Raw is really bad, and it's not going to get any better, truthfully. It really isn't. And I know that WWE signed the new writers, and it's I know 2 of them are African American women, and it gives you that bit of hope. But if they end up on Raw, I guarantee if they end up on Raw, we're going to be reading about how Vince McMahon made them tear up their ideas 30 minutes before the show started, and they had to rewrite whatever it is. You can change the skin. You can change the skin of a snake, but you can't change the fact that it's a snake. You can add as many writers as you want to the show, as many people in charge of the show as you want, but if it all has to go through one person and that one person's vision, and that vision hasn't changed, we're going to keep running into this brick wall. So, but yeah, Raw is really bad. It's going to continue to get bad as well. Going into some recaps, let's start off with SmackDown. First of all, the biggest thing with SmackDown is Roman Reigns. He is the best thing going in wrestling right now, which is the craziest thing. Like, I still can't get over it, of how much fan support Roman Reigns has after years of trying to get fan support, and the fans did not want to support him because he was jammed down their throats. But this time, he's always there, but this time it's just it's the power of a gimmick. When a gimmick works, it works. Roman Reigns with the biggest burn of all time. Of course, the Usos was trying to get the tag team titles from Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Of course, they lost in a very controversial fashion. I think it was Jimmy who was getting pinned, and he had his shoulder up. The referee didn't see it, and they were trying to get a rematch. Roman Reigns was sitting there telling the Usos, like, you got beat by a child. You got beat by Dominic, a child. And he started talking, and then he started talking, and then he turned to Jay, and he said, that's, so I forgot exactly what he said, but he called him Jimmy. And Jay goes, I'm Jay, not Jimmy. And Roman Reigns goes, after tonight, is there really a difference? And so they got another rematch because of what happened. And that was the main event They were in the ring with the they were in the ring with the Mysterios, and then Roman Reigns interferes in the match and starts beating up Rey and Dominic. Of course, the Usos lost by disqualification. Roman Reigns telling them this is how you beat someone down. Jimmy Uso was pretty upset. Jay was upset as well. Jimmy goes to leave, tells Jay to come on, and then Roman Reigns kind of like steps in front of him, stares him down, and Jimmy's like, come on, and Jay's just kind of standing there, and I was like, that's why Jimmy has a shirt that says nobody's bitch. Jay's standing there with his head down low, and that was the end of SmackDown. Really loving this whole dynamic with the Tribal Chief and the Usos. I am still waiting for Uso versus Uso feud. Some people are saying that maybe they should do Jay versus Roman Reigns in the Hell in a Cell, which I don't really agree with. I wouldn't mind Uso versus Uso in Hell in a Cell, but we haven't reached that height yet, so I'm fine with, either Jimmy being forced to turn on, either Jay being forced to turn on Jimmy, or Jimmy just getting fed up and was like, yo, if you gonna stand by his side, then, I'm gonna have to fight you. I don't know. But I know that it's going to be a good feud. I know it's going to be a good match. Shout out to Apollo Crews for being consistent with the accent. I'm wondering when he is going to turn, if he's going to break, when he's going to break the streak, I should say. If he's going to, how long he's going to last with the accent, or if we're going to realize one day, like with Kofi Kingston and Lana, that suddenly he reverted back. It's weird because, Kofi Kingston and Lana started off with the accent, and Apollo Crews didn't have an accent and then suddenly developed the accent. So he's kind of reversing it. But, I'm waiting. I'm happy that he is consistent with keeping the accent, of course. I forgot who, I think it was going against Kevin Owens, I think it was. And then his match ended up in disqualification as well. So, it continues on. We do have Hell in a Cell, I think it's on Father's Day, if I'm not mistaken. See, I think it is on Father's Day. I think it's on the 19th. And it's very weird that they decided to have it in June. But I kind of figured they're going to have it in June just so they can do, yeah, it is on Father's Day. So that they can do whatever it is that they need to do and, with the Hell in the Cell. Truthfully, I wish that we could just go back to a different type of pay-per-view and not have to have these gimmick pay-per-views, because all you're doing is just forcing, these type of matches onto storylines that don't really need it. I can understand if it's like organically built up to that point, and then you want to throw a Hell in a Cell in on a pay-per-view. But to always set it for October, and so it forces the writers and everybody to kind of build up a feud so that it lands to Hell in a Cell, or they realize, oh snap, Hell in a Cell is coming in 2 weeks. Let's ramp this up real quick so we can have a match there. I don't know. It's not that good. We had Liv Morgan, who came out, and I felt so bad for her because she lost all her friends. She comes out to go against Carmella, and she lost. Poor girl, lost her best friends and lost a match in the same week. I don't know what they have planned for Liv Morgan, if she's just going to just be floating on out there until the next budget cuts or whatever, but Liv Morgan, oh man, poor girl. Also Nakamura, Pat McAfee, of course, becoming the new internet sensation with the dancing on top of the table to Nakamura's theme. Pat McAfee actually grew on me as far as commentating. You can tell he is naturally excited to be nearby. Oh, that's fireworks. You can tell that he is naturally excited to be commentating for wrestling. I forgot what it was, but at a certain point, he was he was standing up while commentating, which I found pretty funny. But yeah, him dancing to Nakamura's theme is probably one of the best things going. Also, Jimmy Smith on Raw, he's not that bad, really. He actually flows with Corey Graves and Byron Saxton. That was what was wrong with the other guy. I forgot his name already. But his type of commentating really was, because he wasn't really flowing with the conversations with Corey Graves and Brian Saxton. And as far as like the way that they commentate on Raw in WWE, he didn't really sound natural. But with Jimmy Smith, yeah, I like Jimmy Smith. I'm still iffy about, as far as like, I haven't really watched enough of Raw to really get a full like review of him. But from what I've seen, I'm fine with. Going to AEW Dynamite, we had Pac and Penta versus the Young Bucks. Of course, the Young Bucks win, but I still enjoyed the match. Penta with the Joker gear out once again, and then we had Mark Henry come out, and Mark Henry came out. I didn't really catch what he had said. I forgot what I was doing when that was happening. I didn't catch what he was talking about during that interview. All I heard was Vicky coming out saying, "Excuse me," and that's when I started to like really pay attention. But Vicky Guerrero comes out, and she comes out with the "excuse me" with the high pitched voice. And oh my gosh, like I really like Vicky Guerrero, but when she does the high pitched voice, especially for what she was doing with this segment, it kind of like it took away from the segment, but it took away from this segment, but the segment was still good, I should say. Of course, she was introducing her new protege, someone who is going to be a top level star and is a third generation superstar and stuff like that. And out comes Andrade. And I was like, oh snap, okay. And I know that I talked about the fact that AEW keeps signing WWE people. I kind of figured that I had a feeling that Andrade would come over, especially with the fact that he is going against Kenny Omega and he was talking about all the people he wanted to face. But yeah, I was kind of shocked. I really was. I'm not gonna lie, as my cat starts acting crazy. But I'm not gonna lie. I just don't agree with how he was introduced. But he probably felt like $1 million with that promo, I have to say. And then we had Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus QT Marshall and Anthony Ogogo, which doesn't make any sense because, Homelander already defeated Ogogo, so I don't know what are we doing here. But for some reason, the booking decided to have Ogogo and Marshall win the match, which I don't know. If you really wanted to impress me, Ogogo should have won at Double or Nothing. I mean, because them winning here really doesn't do anything. This is basically the Raw win after the pay-per-view loss. I don't know. But I guess now we got to settle the score. Were we going to have QT Marshall versus Cody Rhodes again? I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do here. Let me see. I did catch Britt Baker's championship celebration, which was okay. They decided to... I know they had burgers and stuff like that. Apparently, she was going to give out coupons for a burger. And then she made fun saying, oh, I had the burgers here. And then Nyla Rose started to throw things around and stuff. And I guess she is going to be going against Britt Baker for the championship match. So, okay. That was fine. There was the Inner Circle segment too, where Chris Jericho mentioned, when Chris Jericho revealed that there were t-shirts underneath the chairs, so everyone now has the new Inner Circle t-shirt, which was fine. I don't know where we're gonna go from here with the Inner Circle, but it looks like we're going to keep it on going with the Inner Circle versus Pinnacle. And I don't know where we're going to go from here, because we already have them going against each other in the Blood and Guts match and the Stadium Stampede. So I don't know how we're going to top these two. So I'm guessing they're going to create another type of match for these two teams. Who knows? Yeah, that was all that I caught really of AEW Dynamite. It came on, I think it came on at 9 on Friday or 10 o'clock. Actually, no. It came on at 10 o'clock. It came on after Smackdown. And I didn't really feel like staying up so late, catching both hours. So, and, with me having to, I had plans on Saturday anyway, so I really couldn't stay up to midnight watching Dynamite. But from what I saw, it was a fine show. It really was. Of course, another rumor too, I forgot to talk about it, is this big rumor for SummerSlam that we're gonna have Roman Reigns versus John Cena. John Cena's not filming. I guess he's gonna come. Well, no, Fast and Furious 9 comes out soon, so it's not going to be a big promotion for his new movie. But if it's the Tribal Chief versus John Cena, I will love to see those promos. But of course, they have to have something big, because now this is going to be the first actual big pay-per-view event, because they have fans coming back in July for the pay-per-view. For I think it was Money in the Bank in July. And so now we're going to have fans in full for one of the bigger pay-per-views. So it's going to make sense for them to try to do a big main event. And I kind of don't mind. I really don't. I know we had, John Cena and Roman Reigns all over the place. But if you want to have fans back in full capacity, I believe, SummerSlam is taking place in Vegas, because they keep playing that Cardi B song. SummerSlam taking place in Vegas at the stadium. It would make sense for them to try to fill up that stadium by having really big shows. So expect for SummerSlam to be really booked to the core. So now getting into NXT in your house predictions. So, starting off with NXT Live show, we got a few surprises. First of all, another notch in the storyline between Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell. We had Poppy, who came onto the show with Triple H and William Regal, and Triple H playing old man, saying, wait a minute there, young lady, you press a button and you drop music? Is that how it works today with these young kids? Like, come on, Triple H. Come on, you know technology a little better than that. But that was the role he played. Poppy dropped her music live, and I knew that Poppy liked NXT, but I didn't realize how much she liked NXT with coming out with a whole album and appearing and doing these segments and stuff like that. Power to her. But then we had Dexter Lumis come in and hand Poppy a picture, and then she went to hug him, and then of course everybody saw the reaction with Triple H and William Regal. Dexter Lumis looking like Stone Cold Steve Austin hugging Vince McMahon when he was hugging Poppy, and that was a long type of hug. And then Indy Hartwell, with the bad timing, coming to say something to Dexter Lumis and seeing her man in the arms of another woman. Oh, damn it. I am team Dexter and Indy Hartwell. Just a weird couple. Give it to me. But we had Candice LeRae who comes out, says she wants to fight Poppy. Poppy comes out, says, I don't fight, but I know someone who does. And out comes my girl, Io Shirai, acting crazy and as all ever. We also had the segment with Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, Ted DiBiase with the infamous laugh and the best theme music ever. Coming out with his announcement that they will be facing each other in a ladder match, and this will be for the new $1 Million Championship. Now, I'm gonna admit, when I first looked at it, I was like, that don't look like the same title as from back in the 90s, but apparently it is. So I'm even more hyped for it. The $1 Million Championship is one of my favorite championships belts. I love Ted DiBiase with the laugh, stuff like that. I was a fan of Money Inc., okay? I probably said this before about WrestleMania 9 when they were going against the Mega Powers. I was for Money Inc. all the way. So I am such a big fan of Ted DiBiase and IRS. I actually met IRS at a House of Hardcore show, and when it came to Philly, and I took a picture with him. Cool guy. So I'm completely excited about this whole $1 Million Championship. So going into the predictions, let's start off with the winner takes all 6-man tag team match for the NXT North American Championship and the NXT Championship. We have Bronson Reed and MSK versus Legado del Fantasma. Now, as much as I would love for Legado to win here, I'm going to go with the champions to retain here. It's too soon for Bronson Reed to lose the title unless they're going to start going for the 50-50 booking, but I highly doubt it. I'm going to go with Bronson Reed here and Bronson Reed and MSK to retain here. And I feel as though we're going to continue this feud because I would love for Legado del Fantasma to have all the gold, just like Undisputed Era. I would love to see that happen. And of course, they're going to release t-shirts and all that stuff for it. But I'm going to go with the champions to retain here. Next up, for the Women's NXT Championship, we have Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon here. I think Dakota Kai is going to interfere in the match along with Shotzi Blackheart. Now, a nice little twist, okay? Nice little twist here is if Raquel Gonzalez retains, but Shotzi Blackheart turns heel here. Because you know what happens in NXT when a woman turns heel. Whoa. Hang on to your seatbelt, okay? I would like to see Shotzi Blackheart turn on Ember Moon. Or for maybe not Ember Moon to turn on Shotzi, but I would like to see Shotzi Blackheart turn heel and definitely give a different dynamic to the character. She could still come out in the tank or something like that. Maybe not, because whenever someone turns heel, they do a completely different look and an entrance and stuff like that. But I would like to see that happen. That'll be very different. That'll give us something different. Now, as far as who Raquel Gonzalez is going to go after Ember Moon, who knows? Maybe if there is no turn, maybe she'll go after. Maybe Shotzi Blackheart will try to get at the title. What I don't want to see, I don't want to see a turn between Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, because I would like to see Raquel Gonzalez to continue on with her title reign. Next up, singles match, Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li. I'm going to go with Xia Li here, her with the Mortal Kombat character, and Boa to dominate Mercedes Martinez, especially that, whatever these mystical powers that Xia Li has whenever she's around, Mei Yang, I think the name is, or Tian, or I forgot the name. But Xia Li tends to get more aggressive and not really as susceptible to pain as she was when she was face. So I'm gonna go with Xia Li to retain here. Next up, the ladder match for the $1 Million Championship: Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight. This is going to be a fun match to watch because whoever wins the championship is just going to really bring out the gimmick. Like, if Cameron Grimes wins the damn championship, he's going to be walking around with, like, throwing money at people. Like, he was cracking me up on Wednesday when he made fun of LA Knight, saying, "Oh, you can't tip the guy. You can't tip the service person." I forgot who it was. Because you don't have any money. And then he went to tip the guy. It was Ted DiBiase's assistant or something like that. And he went to tip the assistant and said, I'm going to give you some money to take care of your family. He goes, "Oh, that's right. You don't have a family," and starts laughing in the guy's face. Like, the $1 Million Championship would definitely work with Cameron Grimes. It would definitely bring out the character. And when Cameron Grimes first came on the scene, like, I was really so iffy about him because I didn't know if he was like a wild cowboy, if he's a cowboy, if he's like psychotic or something like that. But ever since they did this whole money gimmick with him, he's just now obnoxious country boy who has so much money he doesn't know really what to do with it. Like, it's straight out of like a 90s movie. It's like one of the best things to happen to Cameron Grimes. LA Knight can, he can cut a promo on a tree and it would be good. So I don't like the having Ted DiBiase in a $1 Million Championship. He can lose this, not have the championship or Ted DiBiase, and he will still be good. But Cameron Grimes would do a lot better having Ted DiBiase and the $1 Million Championship. But the thing is, LA Knight just came into NXT and he hasn't really had, he hasn't really won anything of significance. So, officially, I'm going to say LA Knight. I know I just said that the $1 Million Championship would be better with Cameron Grimes, but maybe this will start a feud between these two with the $1 Million Championship. And maybe this will end with Cameron Grimes winning the $1 Million Championship, kind of to give him a little bit of an underdog type of feel to it. But LA Knight has to win something. He has to win. Okay, so I'm gonna go with LA Knight on this one. And then finally, for the Fatal 5-Way match for the NXT Championship: Karrion Kross versus Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano versus Pete Dunne. Now, this is going to be this is like all at the same time, so someone's sleeping on the outside for part of the match. We're going to have pretty much Kyle versus Adam Cole once again, Johnny Gargano and Pete Dunne, and Karrion Kross in the middle of all this chaos. Now, I have a feeling that we might see Finn Balor pop up. Who knows? But this is one of the matches that is definitely set up for Karrion Kross to lose but not get pinned type of situation. So this can actually go, to any of the men. I don't really think Pete Dunne is going to win. If the title was to change hands, it could definitely fall to Adam Cole. Kyle O'Reilly winning will definitely be like a really big wild card. If he wins, I can see him pinning Adam Cole or something like that and starting up that feud. I kind of don't want Karrion Kross to lose, because then it kind of leaves that whole call up to the main roster type of situation. And if he gets called up, I'd rather him get called up to Smackdown or something like that. If he get called up to Raw, then that's the end of it. Especially with Scarlett. He can drop the title and still be good. But Karrion Kross can lose the title and he can still have good feuds. And I feel like there's still a few more feuds that Karrion Kross can have at NXT. So I don't feel like it's about his time to leave just yet. Now, he is undefeated. He is undefeated. So, if he was to lose, it would make sense for him to lose without actually losing, if that makes without him getting pinned. So it could easily go to Kyle O'Reilly, which would be a big upset. But it can go to Adam Cole or Johnny Gargano as well. But I realize I don't have any titles changing hands, but I'm gonna go with Karrion Kross here. I think Karrion Kross is going to retain here, and maybe he pins Johnny Gargano. But I think what could possibly happen is Finn Balor were to come back, or if something happens and Adam Cole pins Kyle, or Johnny, gets the title. If Karrion Kross was to lose the title, I have a strong feeling that it would be Adam Cole who would win the title. And then we will get the feud once again between Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly. You can do Adam Cole versus Karrion again. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano. Maybe with this loss with Karrion, he can start a feud with one of the other guys while we get, champion Adam Cole going against other people. Like, it really doesn't need to result in anyone getting called up, really. But officially, I'm just going to say Karrion Kross. My cat agrees with me, too. And I realize I don't have the title changing any hands, but I know more likely I'll have a wrong one of my predictions will be wrong, and the title will change hands somewhere. But it could be that, the champions stayed the same until Smackdown NXT Takeover. Who knows? I mean, not Smackdown, SummerSlam NXT Takeover. Who knows? But either way, this is still going to be a very good takeover, as always. NXT Takeover rarely disappoints, if at all. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give a couple of shout outs. Shout out to Julian and Rob Bates from Wrestling Court Podcast and AlternativeMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. Also, shout out to Straight Talk Wrestling as well. He just did a interview with Al Snow. I didn't get a chance to check it out just yet. But definitely check it out if you haven't already. You can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle actually recently changed. It's actually JDC137. And yes, that is a bit of a Rick and Morty reference. But you can find me at JAYDEC137. You can find the podcast at WrestleBread. On Twitter, you can also find the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to podcasts as well. Coming up next week will be the review for NXT Takeover. It will also be the predictions for Hell in a Cell as well, and whatever type of crazy news stories come out of it also. Be sure to leave a review. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions for not AEW. Oh my gosh, it's getting late and I'm going delirious. For NXT Takeover in your house as well. Let me know who you think is going to win the NXT Championship at the end of the night. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, guys, peace.